I had open heart surgery on my 36th birthday, and no one showed up because they were too busy throwing my sister a surprise party at our childhood home, the one I paid the mortgage on. I wasn't supposed to remember much from the day of the operation, but I remember waking up groggy, wires poking out of me, oxygen mask pressing into my face, and checking my phone. Not a single missed call, not one text from my mother. No good luck. No we love you. Just a photo my cousin had sent me earlier. Balloons. Cake. My mom grinning like a madwoman in front of a glittery Happy 38 Rachel banner in the kitchen I paid to remodel. I was 3 hours post-op when I saw it. My chest stitched shut, my blood pressure still tanking, and all I could think was they chose her again. That day wasn't an anomaly. It was the final undeniable proof of what I'd known since I was 10 years old. Rachel was the golden child, the miracle baby, the pretty one, the soft one, the one whose scraped knee could clear a room. I was the self-cleaning oven, no fuss, no mess, expected to run smoothly forever. She got the hugs. I got the "can you grab your sister's jacket?" She got the praise. I got the bills. When Dad died, guess who handled the funeral arrangements while Mom sat on the couch sobbing into a rosary she hadn't touched in 20 years? When Rachel's apartment flooded during grad school, guess who covered her hotel for 2 months because she was too fragile to couch surf? I worked 2 jobs for most of my 20s. One paycheck went to me. The other quietly kept my family afloat. Groceries, power bills, a few last-minute emergency transfers for Rachel's rent. I was the designated strong one, the backbone, the unpaid therapist, the family ATM with a smile. And when I finally collapsed literally in the ER with chest pains that turned out to be a valve defect I'd inherited from the same people who forgot I existed, they weren't there. I didn't even tell them about the surgery until 2 weeks before. My cardiologist had said, gently, that waiting longer wasn't an option. I told Mom over the phone, my voice shaking. You know what she said? "Oh no, honey, that's the 23rd, right? That's Rachel's birthday. Not how can we help? Not I'll be there. Just disappointment." Just the sound of her mentally adjusting her party plans. She didn't offer to reschedule. I didn't ask her to. I couldn't stomach another moment of pretending I wasn't a burden. The morning of the surgery, Rachel posted a selfie captioned, "Starting 30 off right. Feeling so loved today." And in the background, you could see the corner of the living room. My childhood drawings still hung on the wall. They hadn't even taken them down. When the nurse handed me my phone after recovery, I opened Instagram just to feel something. I should have known better. The entire family was tagged. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Friends I didn't even recognize. My mother, drunk and proud, beaming like she'd cured cancer instead of raising a narcissist. They looked happy. I looked like a science experiment stitched back together. And even then, I told myself I was overreacting. They didn't mean to hurt you, I whispered to myself in that sterile hospital room. They just forgot. But that was the thing. They always forgot. When I got into UCLA, Mom told me I was selfish for leaving home. When Rachel got into a yoga teacher training in Santa Cruz, she got a cake, a plane ticket, and a fucking scrapbook. When I got promoted, "Oh, honey, maybe don't brag. Your sister's still figuring things out." When Rachel quit her 4th job in 2 years, she's just trying to find herself. I found myself in spreadsheets and exhaustion, in auto-debit family emergencies, in apologizing for existing too loudly. And now I was here, alone, barely alive, and they were eating red velvet cake off the dishes I bought. I scrolled through the pictures until I hit the group photo. Everyone but me. I don't know what snapped. Maybe it was the Vicodin haze. Maybe it was 3 decades of trying to be the responsible one. Maybe it was seeing my mother in a tiara that read "Birthday Queen" on my birthday. I felt it like a shift in my bones. Cold. Quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just made a promise. Never again. The first thing I did when I got home from the hospital 5 days post-surgery, still bruised from IVs, and stapled like a taxiderm my project was take every family photo off my wall. Not dramatically. No smashing, no screaming. Just one frame at a time, with steady hands and surgical silence. I stacked them in a box labeled "Return to Sender," taped it shut, and left it by the front door. I didn't even write a note. The texts started trickling in 2 days later. First, Rachel. Hey, are you mad at me? Mom said you didn't answer her call. I ignored it. Then Mom tried. Heard you're out. Good news! We were going to visit, but everyone got sick from the sushi. Just awful. I don't know who everyone was. Maybe the ghost of my self-worth. Either way, I didn't respond. And the less I responded, the louder they got. At first, it was guilt. I can't believe you're being like this after everything we've done for you. What they had done for me. The irony could have split my stitches open. Then came the gaslight. You said you didn't want a big deal made. That's why we didn't come. Oh, right. I forgot the part where I begged for abandonment. Must have slipped my mind between morphine doses. And finally, the rage. Rachel's been crying for days. Are you really going to ruin her birthday just because you're jealous? That one made me laugh. Actually laugh. Out loud. Alone on my couch, still in my hospital socks. I laughed until it hurt. I stopped replying altogether after that. Instead, I logged into my bank account. Because if there was one thing they remembered me for, it was my routing number. Over the years, I'd set up auto payments for Mom's utilities, Dad's old car insurance, which Rachel now drove, and a mysterious recurring Venmo transfer labeled Help Me 3 that went straight to Rachel's account. I canceled everything. Every last one. And when the silence hit, when the screaming group texts turned into pathetic question marks and are you okay? And finally, I think we deserve an explanation. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. See, my family wasn't loud until you stopped playing your part. As long as you were useful, quietly useful, they loved you. The moment you stopped bleeding for them, suddenly you're acting strange or overreacting. I wasn't acting, I was remembering. I was remembering the Christmas the first spent alone in college because Rachel really needed the car I was supposed to drive home with. The time Mom forgot my birthday but posted a collage for Rachel's dog on Instagram with the caption, "My first grandbaby." The time I was rear-ended driving to pick Rachel up from some failed audition, and Mom asked if my insurance would go up because that would really stress your sister out. I remembered it all. And this time, I didn't swallow it down. I let it sit, rot, grow teeth. I started saying no. Not with fanfare, not with long explanations. Just no. No, I wasn't coming to Sunday dinner. No, I wasn't transferring money. No, I wouldn't swing by to help Rachel build her IKEA shelf. That one made me laugh too, as if a woman recovering from thoracic surgery should be lifting MDF. I didn't scream. I didn't explain. I just let the silence do the heavy lifting. But they didn't take silence as an answer. They took it as a challenge. One night, 3 weeks into my recovery, I came home from a follow-up appointment to find Mom sitting on my porch. Rachel was in the car, fake crying into her phone. I could see the dramatics from the driveway. I didn't say hi. Mom launched into it before I even turned off the engine. "You're being cruel." Those were her first words. Not "how are you feeling?" Not "I'm sorry, we missed your surgery." Not "we made a mistake." Just, "You're being cruel." I didn't get out of the car. I just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. She kept going. "Do you know how hard this has been on Rachel? Her birthday was supposed to be special. And you made it about yourself." I turned to her, slowly. I could feel my heart beating, not metaphorically. Literally, my new heartbeat clicking slightly different now. A little louder, a little braver. "She made my surgery about herself," I said, voice calm and clear. She flinched. "You think I wanted this?" I continued. "You think I scheduled a cardiac operation as a way to upstage Rachel's Instagram post?" She opened her mouth. I shut the door in her face. She banged on it. Called me disrespectful. Called me ungrateful. Rachel wailed in the car like a soap opera extra. I watched it all through the peephole, blank-faced, until they left. And when they did, I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. I just walked into my kitchen and opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving since my 30th. It was meant to be a celebration. I drank it alone. Heart still healing, but my spine stronger than ever. That night, I blocked every number but my cousin's. I deleted the family group chat. And I finally changed the emergency contact on my medical file from Mom to no one. Because no one had shown up anyway. And the truth was, I liked the silence better than their noise. It was my cousin Lana who finally said it out loud. "I don't know how you survived this long." She was the only one who visited me after the surgery. She brought soup in a pink thermos, cracked jokes about my Franken chest staples, and stayed up binge watching true crime with me while I drifted in and out of post-op haze. Lana had always been the outlier, technically part of the family, but just estranged enough to see the dysfunction clearly. She'd moved 3 states away after college and never came back except for funerals or forced Christmases. We were close when we were kids, rebellious together. But I hadn't realized how much I needed someone to just witness me until she showed up with lemon tea and soft fury in her eyes. "They really threw a party while you were under anesthesia?" she asked that first night. I nodded. She winced. Jesus. Lana didn't ask questions to make me talk. She asked them to listen. And slowly, in her presence, I started to unravel the threads. Not just the party, not just the absence, but everything, every bruise I'd painted over, every time I'd told myself, they just don't know better. Every dollar, every ride, every appointment I'd quietly coordinated to keep the family from imploding. And when Lana asked if I'd ever looked at the house deed the house Mom lived in, the one I'd been paying down since Dad died, I laughed. Why would I? It's her house, is it? That one question sat in my gut like a stone, because something about it gnawed at me. I remembered the paperwork after Dad's death, the rush, the lawyer I never met. The way Mom had said, "Just sign this so we can finalize the estate stuff." I was 27, grieving, exhausted. I signed without reading. So a week later, I dug through my fireproof lockbox, the one buried in the back of my bedroom closet, behind tax returns and my old college diploma. And there it was, a scanned copy of the house deed. From 7 years ago, my name not hers on the title. My name. Sole owner. I sat down on the floor. The room tilted a little. Or maybe I did. The realization hit like a second surgery, but this time, it wasn't a scalpel. It was a damn blade through everything I thought I understood. I owned the house. I had been paying the mortgage, the repairs, the taxes, not as a dutiful daughter, not as a helper. I was the landlord. The bank account. The sucker. She never told me. She never paid a cent. And every time she called it my house, I'd let her. Because I didn't know any better. Because she'd raised me to think I owed her the air I breathed. When I told Lana, she didn't even blink. "Burn it down," she said too calmly. Not literally, but you know what I mean. I did. I pulled out old records, cross-referenced statements. I found checks I'd written for Rachel's therapy, her broken laptop, her rent, none of which were ever paid back. I added it all up. In one spreadsheet. Every dollar, every day to 84, $213.27. That's how much I'd spent propping up people who couldn't be bothered to send me a card when I almost died. I was still staring at the number when an email popped up. It was from my mom. Subject line, family meeting, mandatory. I didn't open it. I forwarded it to Lana, who replied with a single emoji. Instead, I did something better. I scheduled an appointment with an attorney. The first thing he asked was, "Do you want them out?" I hadn't said it out loud yet, not even to myself, but once he asked, the answer felt obvious. Yes, he smiled like he'd been waiting for me to say that. "They don't have any legal rights to stay," he explained. "You can file a formal eviction, 60 days notice. They'll fight it, but they won't win." And just like that, my revenge had a timeline. Lana helped me draft the notice. We sent it through certified mail and email. No warning, no warm-up. I pictured them opening it. The panic, the confusion. I didn't send a note. Just one line at the bottom of the legal document, "I want my house back." The response came fast. Rachel blew up my phone with voicemail after voicemail. "You're kicking Mom out?" "She's your mother, you psycho. After everything she did for you, do you know how this is going to look to everyone?" It was that last line that made me smile. Because that was the priority. Not the betrayal, not the deception, just the optics. Then Mom emailed, no subject, just paragraphs of word salad. "You don't understand how hard this has been for me. This house is my home. You're acting like a stranger." I didn't reply, but I forwarded it to Lana and wrote, "Should I be polite or nuclear?" She responded in seconds, cold. Ice Queen. Legal doc drop plus silence. Let the paper speak. So I did. 2 days later, I had my lawyer send them a formal cease and desist. All financial contact was terminated. They were legally trespassing if they didn't vacate in 60 days. I expected war. Instead, I got a weird, pathetic PR campaign. Mom posted on Facebook, "So sad when family turns their back on you." "All I ever did was love," Rachel added, a crying selfie. "Some people just have no loyalty. Blood means nothing anymore." And my favorite? My aunt commenting she was always cold. I'm not surprised. They tried to smear me online, but they didn't know what I knew. They didn't know I had the receipts, the title, the bank transfers, the texts. They didn't know I was done protecting them. I didn't reply to a single post. I just started packing their things into boxes and scheduling locksmiths for day 61. I wasn't mad anymore. I was meticulous. And it felt good. I gave them exactly 60 days. Not 59, not 61. The eviction clock started the moment the notice was signed for, ironically, by Rachel, who probably thought it was another Amazon package. I didn't hear a word for the first 2 weeks. Not from Mom, not from Rachel, not from any of the flying monkeys who used to buzz into my inbox with just checking in. When they needed a ride or a favor or a donation for some GoFundMe scam, Rachel was pushing. It was like silence settled over the family like fog. But I knew better. They weren't processing. They were plotting. It started with the health angle. Mom called my old job, yes, my former job, which I'd left during recovery, to ask if I still had insurance. "I'm worried about her mental state," she said, according to my former manager, who called to give me the heads up. Next came the guilt bomb. She left a voicemail at 3:12 a.m. one night. Slurred, maybe drunk. "You know what your father would say if he could see you now?" I played that one on speaker for Lana, who rolled her eyes so hard I thought she'd pull a muscle. "Yeah," I said. "He'd say, 'Why didn't you kick them out sooner?'" The truth was, Dad hadn't been a saint, but he had been the only person who saw me. He used to call me the compass. Said I was the one who kept the family from walking in circles. Too bad no one listened after he died. As the deadline crept closer, the rage boiled over. They didn't move. They didn't pack. They didn't call. They just nested deeper. Like squatters with good makeup and worse manners. On day 45, I drove by the house and saw balloons again. A different cousin's birthday this time. I parked a block away, watched the porch light flicker in the wind. And I smiled, because they still thought I wouldn't go through with it. They were wrong. Day 58, my lawyer filed the formal eviction papers. A sheriff's notice was scheduled for day 61. Day 60, I posted one simple message on my private Facebook account. Not public, not dramatic, just a quiet detonation. To those asking, no, I didn't kick my mom out of her house. I'm taking back my house. And I have the deed, the payments, the receipts, and the surgery scars to prove it. Let the silence speak. I didn't respond to the messages that poured in. I didn't need to. That night, Mom finally called. Her voice was trembling. Not angry anymore, just small. "Can we talk?" she asked. I paused. Let the silence settle. Then I said flatly, "We had 60 days to talk." She burst into tears, the kind that used to gut me, the kind that used to twist around my spine and make me say, "It's okay, don't cry." But this time, I didn't flinch. "You chose Rachel's party over my surgery," I said. "You chose every birthday, every cry, every bill of hers over me, and I let you. But you don't get to choose how this ends. You're abandoning your family," she said. "No," I corrected. "I'm abandoning my role. You can keep the family." Click. Day 61. The sheriff showed up at 9:02 a.m. I didn't go. Lana did. She wore sunglasses, a power suit, and brought iced coffee like it was a red carpet event. They were stunned, she told me later. Rachel screamed, "Your mom tried to guilt the officer. But guess what? Tears don't override property law. The photos she sent me were poetic. Boxes on the lawn, Rachel on the curb, furiously texting someone, probably trying to spin this into another victim story. Mom's sitting on the porch in her housecoat, surrounded by things she never paid for. They left behind trash, scratches on the wall, a broken mirror I'd bought when I was 23. But they also left behind silence. Glorious, healing, uncluttered silence. I changed the locks that evening. Myself, with my hands. Screwdriver in one pocket, resolve in the other. That night, I slept in my house, alone, peaceful, a little sad, but not sorry. The next morning, I went through the kitchen, threw out expired condiments, clean drawers full of Rachel's junk, pulled down the birthday banner that had been shoved into the pantry, still glittering. Then I opened my laptop and uploaded everything. Receipts, screenshots, the deed, the text from Rachel on my surgery day that said, "You alive? Lol, JK happy BDAI 2. Me, I posted it all, privately. Just to the family group chat they'd forgotten I could still access. Caption, "This is what you made. This is what I kept. This is why you're out." Then I left the group for good. Within minutes, I got 3 texts. "Aunt Gina, I had no idea. I'm sorry. Cousin Eli, damn respect." And Rachel? She posted a black square on Instagram with the caption, "Sometimes the people closest to you are the biggest traitors. Watch who you trust. No names, no receipts, just vague victimhood and filtered tears." I didn't comment. I didn't care. Because for once, the narrative wasn't hers to write. I had the documents, I had the keys, I had my life back. And it never once crossed their minds after decades of using me that I might wake up. But I did, and I didn't just wake up. I came home. There's a particular kind of silence that only exists after the storm. It's not empty. It's not void, it's clean. That was what the house felt like. 3 weeks after the eviction, I was curled on the couch with a mug of lavender tea, listening to rain tap against the windows. No texts buzzing on my phone, no screaming matches upstairs, no passive-aggressive slams of cabinet doors, no Rachel sighing loud enough to make her presence a burden, just me and peace. For a while, I didn't even want to fill the silence. I didn't hang new pictures, I didn't redecorate. I just let the air settle into the rooms, like the house had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled. And so did I. It wasn't immediate. Healing never is. There were days I still flinched when my phone rang with an unknown number. Days I half expected a cousin to pop up at my door with a guilt trip and a casserole. Days I found old trinkets left behind Rachel's favorite mug with the chipped rim. Mom's half-used perfume bottle tucked in my bathroom cabinet and had to pause, close my eyes, and breathe through the ache. Because it was an ache. Even when you walk away from a fire, it doesn't mean the burns don't hurt. But every day, the sting faded, and something else took its place. Clarity. That first weekend, Lana and I painted the guest room together, the one that used to be Rachel's. We turned it into a reading nook. Soft golden walls, floating shelves, thrifted armchairs that didn't match but felt like hugs. She brought over a plant and said, "Name her something petty." So I did. I named her Matriarcha. She's thriving. I started working again, freelancing at first, then consulting. It turns out when you're not hemorrhaging your energy into bottomless pits of emotional labor, you're actually really damn productive. Who knew? I took myself out for solo dinners. I bought myself flowers. I booked a weekend getaway to the coast, alone, and didn't tell anyone. I watched the waves, read novels in oversized sweaters, and cried exactly once on the balcony when I realized I didn't need anyone's permission to feel good. No permission, no performance, just me, free. And yes, they tried to crawl back. Of course they did. It started subtle. A card in the mailbox from Mom. No return address. Just my name in shaky handwriting. Inside, families fight. But we're still your family. Come home. I folded it neatly and put it in the fireplace. Rachel tagged me in an old photo collage on Facebook with the caption, "No matter what, I'll always love my sister." I didn't comment. 2 days later, I blocked her. Then came the message from my aunt, "You've made your point. Don't you think it's time to move on?" That one made me laugh. Like it was a point. Like I was trying to prove something. No, darling. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about restoration. About choosing myself for the first time in a lifetime of being second. I didn't reply to any of them, because what was there to say? They'd written their script. I just stopped showing up for rehearsals. Funny thing is, once people realize they can't control the narrative, they either double down or disappear. Most of them disappeared. Good riddance. The rest? The ones who stayed silent while I bled? They stay silent still. I don't miss them. What I miss is the version of me that believed love had to be earned through sacrifice. that if I was just a little more generous, a little more understanding, a little more patient, they'd finally see me. Spoiler alert, they saw me just fine, they just didn't care. But I care now. And caring for myself has turned out to be the most radical act of rebellion I've ever pulled off. The house is mine, not just legally, emotionally, spiritually. Every corner has been reclaimed. Rachel's party banner, gone. Mom's live, laugh, love bathroom plaque, gone. The doormat that said welcome home in a fake happy font, gone. Now it just says, you're not invited. I hosted a dinner last week for a few friends, real ones. People who knew what happened and didn't ask for the watered-down version. We laughed, we cried, we ate too much pasta. Lana toasted me with sparkling cider. To breaking the cycle, she said, and I felt it deep in my bones, the truth of it, because that's what this really was. Not revenge, not punishment, closure. A soft ending to a loud story, a full stop after years of ellipses. And sure, I still hear whispers. Someone told me Rachel moved back in with a college friend. That mom's been posting cryptic quotes on Facebook about forgiveness and daughters who forget where they come from. But I know exactly where I come from, and I know where I'm going. Last week, I planted lavender in the front yard. I'd always wanted to. Never did because Mom hated bees and Rachel thought gardening was depressing. Now it blooms. Quiet. Soft. Alive. Sometimes I sit on the porch and watch it sway in the breeze. I sip my tea. I breathe. I exist. And no one needs to like it but me, because I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be free. They said I was heartless, but for once I put my heart first. And it's still beating, louder than ever. Story 2, Claire is my name. I am 36 years old and employed in Minnesota as an accountant for an organic food firm. In a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment, I live alone. Me and the ideas I've never dared to express aloud. Just enough room. I began preparing for Christmas this year as early October. Please understand that I'm not a sucker for festive music, fragrant candles, or glittery ribbons. All I wanted was for my mother to be happy. For the twin children, Ava and Mason, my younger brother Eric, his wife Danielle, and themselves. I even got their dog a small present. Santa's favorite is written on a red sweater. Actually, I haven't forgotten a single gift in the last decade. From the scientific book Mason lusted over when he saw it at the bookshop to the toy Ava mentioned in passing back in June. Everything was meticulously described, line by line, in my phone notes. I was prepared by the first week of December. I added small handwritten messages, wrapped each present in snowman print paper, and tied blue and golden ribbons for Mason and Ava, respectively. Handmade cookies, a bottle of lavender-scented perfume, and a handful of untagged toys were among the extras I had packed in case Eric's family suddenly invited someone. I had placed a lot of hope in this Christmas, as though it would be my final opportunity to have any optimism at all. I visualized the night of December 24, with lights flashing on a 7-foot tree, and Ava and Mason laughing as they tore through wrapping paper. The entire family was assembled in my parents' living room. Eric looked at me and nodded, and my mom started crying over the silk scarf I had carefully chosen from a little boutique downtown. He only gave me a single nod to indicate that he understood. However, I was mistaken. I was mistaken to believe that I could continue to play the calm older sister and the considerate daughter. Even when I wanted to scream within, the kind woman never failed to smile. I am also a member of this family. I am not invisible. Nothing could have prepared me for this moment, even though I had everything ready. Later on, I would recall it as a blow to my self-respect. They didn't welcome me this Christmas. And it all began at 7:18 a.m. with a quick message from my mother. December 23rd. Eric's family wishes to have a private celebration this year. Do not come, please. I apologize for the delayed notice. Late notification. I kept reading the message until the screen light seemed to be burning. My eyes. I mistook it for a joke. I even sneered. Mom must have been exhausted or unhappy about something, I told myself as I put my phone down. Then I gave a call. 3 times, she didn't respond. Then Eric sent a nasty, icy text. You are not required to attend. Someone who is unaware of their duty has no place here. I was trapped in my part, gazing at the neatly stacked gifts under my tree. Every package. Every ribbon was picked with care. It now appears to be evidence of something horrible. My heart had been entrusted to a place that was never able to accommodate it. I still have the presents in my trunk. I'm not sure yet if I should donate them or send them back to the retailer. However, I am aware that family get-togethers are no longer the focus of this Christmas season. The realization that I've been holding on to a circle that silently closed without me is what it's about. I debated whether to travel to my folks' house in Bloomington for over an hour. I wanted to believe, even though my mom's SMS made it very apparent that I shouldn't come. Perhaps it was all a mistake when they saw me, the presents, and the grin I had been holding on to for months. On the journey over, things would be different. To block out the mental tempest, I switched on the radio. Snow started to fall outside, and the windshield was gently covered in light flakes, a subtle reminder that winter had finally arrived. Furthermore, it didn't provide the warmth I had hoped for. Everything at my parents' light gray house looked the same as it had in previous years, with a large tree blazing in the window and Christmas lights decorating the roof. However, something didn't feel right. Don't laugh. Neither Mason nor Ava came coming out to meet me. I inhaled deeply before opening the trunk, removing the present bags and making my way to the door. My hand shook. Perhaps from something more profound, perhaps from the cold. I pressed the doorbell twice. The door splintered open. Wearing a sweater that was deep crimson, my mother stood there. She had a look I had never seen before. "Claire," she muttered. "This year I warned you not to come. I went cold. I brought everything I wanted, Mom." From behind her came the voice of Eric. "Mom, just say it. She is not welcome. Failures are not what we need here." I remained still. His gaze locked with me. And these weren't the brother's eyes when he once pleaded with me to pay for his first year's tuition. They were now arrogant and contemptuous. I made an effort to grin. A failure. Simply due to the fact that I haven't sent any money in the last 3 months. Behind Mom, Eric folded his arms. 3 months? You haven't been of any assistance to us this year, Claire. The children lacked even fresh school attire. How about you? You purchased a new vehicle? Traveled. Living like a monarch. There is a payment plan for the automobile. I also used my funds to vacation. Regarding the children, Eric, they're your children, not mine. My throat constricted, despite my best efforts to speak calmly. Mom remained silent. She only glanced toward the doorway. I looked at her in the hopes of seeing a glimmer of sympathy, some indication that I hadn't been thrown out entirely. I brought presents for everyone when I arrived. Like every year, all I wanted was a warm evening. Did I truly make a mistake? Eric laughed. Are you trying to figure out what went wrong? In this household, you are the only one with a steady job. Pretend that no one else is important. Give up acting. You simply enjoy being the altruistic one. Not this year anyhow. We're finished. I bit my lip, squeezing the handles of the present bag till they ache. All of a sudden, I felt as though I had no right to speak while on trial. All right. My voice was little more than a whisper when I spoke. If that's your opinion, I'll stop bothering you, Eric added with sneering cynicism as I stepped off the first porch gaze. But I glanced aside. Claire, have a happy Christmas. Remember your gifts. Nobody desires them. I didn't turn around. I refused to let them see how full my eyes were. I refused to show them my trembling hands. I just made my way back to my car on foot. Sinking into the driver's seat, I opened the door and placed the bags on the passenger seat. It was reality, not the cold, that was making my heart race. I never imagined that I would be excluded from my childhood home. The engine was not started by me. Long shadows were formed across the growing snow by the yard lights, which continued to burn. My heartbeat and the sound of the wind through the window were the only sounds I could hear. Seals. I refrained from crying. I was unable to. I had no more tears to shed about being turned down. So conclusive. With my hands on the driving wheel, I said a single word. So my Christmas starts like this. I used to think that supporting family was a given. In particular, for my 4-year-old younger brother, Eric, the one I used to hold and console when he was crying because of school bullies. But I instantly realized as I sat in my car and looked at the headlights of the home that had just closed on me, I might not have been helpful. Perhaps I was being taken advantage of. And it was me who allowed it to continue for so long. I recalled all the times Eric had phoned me in the middle of the night to tell me that Mason didn't have a decent winter coat or that Ava really needed money for summer camp. I immediately transferred the funds. No inquiries were made. I convinced myself that I did it because I loved the children. Not guilt, not duty. I could see it plainly in their eyes now, though, as he threw the term failure at me. I had changed from being the sister who devotedly loved her family. I was only a walking cash cow. For Ava's first 2 years of school, I had paid more than $0.0 in tuition. Last year, when they were 3 months overdue on their rent and the $12.50 mortgage payment, which I had to take out of my retirement funds to prevent the bank from foreclosing, I paid their utilities. That was never brought up again. Thank you, but no follow-up. I thought they would understand if I offered enough. I did it because I loved you. However, the more I contributed, the more they perceived it as a duty. My phone then displayed a message. It came from Eric's wife, Danielle. Claire, I apologize. I disagree with Eric's treatment of you. I simply lacked the guts to speak up today. I gazed at the writing. I had never been close to Danielle, but she was always gentle and compassionate. I got her a leather diary with her name etched on it when we first met. She was the only one who apologized, even though she knew she enjoyed writing, despite the fact that this wasn't her fault. I took a while to respond. I flipped the car around and placed the phone on the passenger seat. I had to go home and reflect. On the way back, I thought about how I silently carried Eric's burden each year, one minor cost at a time, then bigger ones, until the figures become uncountable. I can very clearly recall when Eric phoned. After losing his work, his voice was trembling with terror. I assured him it was all right and sent them $200.0 right away. Get back on your feet, please. I'll look after the children for a little. The beginning of an unbalanced relationship was that phrase. About 10 o'clock at night, I returned to my apartment. All of the earlier turmoil seemed far away in the silence. Like someone returning from an unsaid battle, I put the present bags on the dining table, turned on the lamp, and collapsed into a chair. As I had always done, I opened my laptop and launched my personal budget tracker. Even when I spent $10.0 on a tiny toy, I always remembered to record the expenditure. I looked over the notes, assisted with Eric's tuition, card payments, and auto maintenance. In order for Danielle to start working, during $0.0 during the previous 5 years, I sat quietly. I had never demanded anything in return. Interest was never computed. I believed that was the proper thing for a big sister to do. But now, after being treated with coldness and contempt, I finally got it. Family. One-sided love is impossible. They thought that I would always bear the load since they had grown so accustomed to it. I became the failure all of a sudden when I quit. I closed the laptop, opened Danielle's message again, and scribbled a brief response. I appreciate you getting in touch. I'm not angry. However, things will be different from now on. One thing was certain. Even if I had no idea what was ahead, I would never again allow someone to take my generosity for granted. I was silent the whole Christmas Eve. No mugs of hot chocolate, no kids giggling, and no knit scarf my mom prepared every year out of habit. Only me. The present bag is still on the table, unopened, and there is a self-decorated tree in the corner of the living room, not opened. Perhaps since my final hair had already fallen in the automobile just outside their house, I didn't weep. That time when Eric labeled me a fifth year and gave me such a disdainful look, I was startled out of the dream I had held onto for too long by an unseen smack. It was 3 days later. My phone did not make any noise at all. Mom didn't leave a message. Dad didn't check in. Eric didn't explain. After that one fleeting apology, Danielle vanished too. I was easily removed from the family portrait in a way that made me shiver, as if the instant I ceased to be the hero. I didn't return the call. I made no effort to make amends. As I typically did, I didn't transfer another $1 to Eric's account. In years, for the first time, I decided to leave altogether. Family isn't necessarily about blood, I was once informed. People who don't make you plead to be noticed might sometimes be the problem. I dismissed it with a nod back then. Every breath I take now has that phrase etched into it. Because I was too busy taking care of other people, I spent the remainder of the holiday doing little tasks like cleaning my bookcase and preparing meals for myself rather than reheating canned food. For the first time in years, I wrote a few lines in my journal. I confessed to myself in those sloppy scrawls. I was worn out, weary of being powerful all the time. Money is always sent on time. I always repress my feelings in order to please other people, weary of bearing obligations. I wasn't asked to, only to be written off as worthless, until I came to a standstill. I don't think they'll get it. They don't have to return to apologize to me. All I want is for this stillness to last. After first hurting, it now seems as though every incision is covered in a thin coating of frost, freeing but cold. When midnight rolled around on New Year's Eve, I gave my phone a final spin. There is still no message. I put it down, filled a glass with white wine, and held it up. Claire, Happy New Year. You succeeded. As I pulled the tree out of the corner of the living room on New Year's Day, I began putting away the Christmas decorations. The tiniest gift box I had made caught my eye. Eric's one. A real leather wallet with his name inscribed on it. To Eric. Always by your side, I chuckled quietly. A chuckle that was simultaneously liberating and depressing. After taking a final glance at the wallet, I carefully put it in the charity bin with the other presents. Perhaps it might give a stranger a sense of caring even if it doesn't represent familial affection. When the holidays finished and I went back to work 3 weeks later, I still hadn't gotten a single communication. However, the pain was less intense than before. I began to devote more time to myself. Despite the fact that I had never played an instrument before, I purchased a ukulele and enrolled in a morning yoga session. We definitely need to get together soon, I insisted, and I even gave my former college roommate a call. For almost 4 years, too. It seemed like I was piecing myself together with every little step. I was told by my family that some pieces were unimportant. It's peculiar. I didn't start learning how to be who I really was until I stopped being the person who supported and sacrificed for her. However, it didn't stop there. I was reviewing my financial reports for the start of the year one evening in early February when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I paused. Something urged me to pick it up, even though I was on the verge of leaving it on voicemail. The voice of a guy, calm but strange, came through. Hi there, I'm Thomas Reed, a lawyer. I work for a customer that has financial issues with you and your family. I straightened my posture. A lawyer, money-related issues. Just what did you say? I made an effort to remain calm. I am unable to divulge much over the phone. However, I believe you ought to be aware that something grave is taking place, Miss Claire. And I realized then that this quiet was not the end. It was my first time meeting an attorney. But now, there was a man named Thomas Reed, and I was sitting outside his office. Sweat-damp palms. The afternoon following that conversation, I entered a tidy, compact space with soft lighting and a contemporary abstract picture behind the desk. The man, who was well-dressed and in his mid-40s or early 40s, shook my hand with the coolness of someone accustomed to harsh realities. Claire, thank you for coming. I am aware that this was unexpected. I sat down and tried to speak steadily. You mentioned that this has to do with money issues that I have with my family. What precisely? Thomas carefully handed a manila packet toward me after opening it. I was requested to investigate the financial support you have given to your younger brother Eric by a relative. I scowled. Do you mean Danielle? He gave a nod. Indeed. Some of the facts she found seemed concerning. I opened the folder. It contained a summary of the money I had paid Eric over the previous 5 years, bank statements, and screenshots of correspondence. I have vivid memories of a few. Ava's allergy medicine, summer camp costs, and mortgage assistance. Others, however, I had never heard of at all. One item stated that Claire had sent $500. And that a transaction had been made to a sports betting website. With my heart racing, I looked up. Are you saying that Eric gambled with the money I provided him? Thomas didn't think twice. Not once. Eric created a secret account without informing Danielle about it. She has been keeping a close eye on it and now thinks he spent a large amount of the support funds, including yours, on untraceable, personal expenses. I was at a loss for words. She doesn't intend to file a lawsuit, he added. Not yet, anyhow. However, she believed that you should be aware in order to avoid being taken by surprise by requests in the future. She could use this proof to defend herself and the kids if Eric keeps going. With my head hurting and my chest feeling hollow, I closed the folder. At the door, Eric's remarks reverberated. "You haven't been of any assistance to us this year." He had been using that money to wager on late-night sports in the meanwhile. The sun had already set when I left the legal office. On the walkway, melted snow formed icy ponds. As I took my phone out of my pocket to give Danielle a call, I noticed that she had left an unread message the previous evening. "Claire, even though you promised not to return, I must say this. I apologize for my prolonged silence. I now see that what Eric did was terrible. I'm available if you need anything." On the sidewalk, I remained still, strict throat. A brief, late apology, but not without purpose. The only person suddenly accepting the reality was Danielle, who had previously avoided making eye contact with me at every Christmas get-together. I typed a few words, erased them, and then typed some more. I just submitted one line in the end. "I appreciate your bravery, but I won't forget this time. It wasn't an insult, just the facts. When you're being shoved down a hole and someone doesn't say anything, you can't get out like you never fell, even if they reach out afterward." I had trouble sleeping that night. I kept thinking about the numbers in the folder. Every transaction, every betrayal receipt. I reflected about the birthday letters I had handwritten and the presents I had carefully chosen for Eric. The many times I put his needs ahead of my own in order to keep him afloat. Now it was me who was called selfish. I wasn't going back, though, this time. No more. Eric wouldn't stop here, but only I knew that. And I was aware that he would make every effort to regain control over me if he learned I was no longer in his power. And I was correct. Because I received a call from an unknown number 2 days later, but not a lawyer this time. It was Eric, and there was no longer any disdain in his voice. Panic struck. A loud knock on my door interrupted me as I was preparing my customary Saturday night delight, creamy mushroom spaghetti. Not the neighborly courteous kind. Not the soft thump of a parcel. It was urgent, sharp, demanding. After a moment of hesitation, I opened the door as I had anticipated. Eric's heavy winter coat slipped off one shoulder as he stood there, his eyes bloodshot. He could smell the chilly snow and cigarette smoke. "Claire, we must speak." I crossed my arms. "Now you're coming? You weren't picking up the phone." I had to be there. I blocked the door. "Make a scene or demand extra money if you're here to point the finger at me. Do not bother. There is nothing left for you." His eyes went chilly after he froze for a moment. "After everything, you're truly ignoring me." I laughed a little dryly. "Following everything I'd done for you?" "Indeed. And I ought to have taken care of it long ago." He took a step forward. "You don't understand, Claire. We're having problems. Danielle wishes to part ways. The children require new clothing. The school fees are due. Everything is disintegrating. You are necessary to me." I made eye contact with him. "No, I'm not necessary for you. You must have my wallet." And I finished that game. "This is not possible. The family's most responsible member is you." I arched an eyebrow. "In charge? Do you believe that my purpose is to tidy up your mess? I didn't enter this earth to make your life better. For a small bit, I've worked too hard and I won't give it up again." He scoffed. "How about Dad and Mom? You're going to abandon them," and my chest erupted with rage. "You were their choice. They watched as you made me seem foolish." When I showed up at their door with presents, they turned away. They would have phoned if they needed me. However, they didn't. Not once. Eric said nothing. It wasn't remorse. It was a calculation. "It was visible to me," he continued. "You know," his voice trailing off, "Danielle is examining everything. She is hiring a lawyer to look into all of the accounts. How about you? You've taken part in a number of things. If she files a lawsuit, give up." With a voice as harsh as ice, I snapped. "Let me clarify whether you're implying that I'd be included in this since I've assisted you over the years. I thought the money I transferred was for your family. I had no idea that you were hoarding it in hidden accounts or using it for gaming." His expression changed oddly. I noticed genuine terror in his eyes for the first time. Perhaps he saw that I was no longer the naive sibling. With each apology, she would take out her pocketbook. Keeping the door in my hand, I took a step back. "I refuse to become involved in the disaster you made. Do you have a lawyer? Excellent. I can too. And I'll be completely honest if this goes to court." He gritted his teeth. "Do you intend to accept it?" "So far?" I gave a nod. if it's necessary to put an end to this. Indeed, you need to learn how to support yourself instead of relying on the generosity of others. After standing for a while more, he turned and left without saying anything. His footsteps trailed off, and I closed the door. I was still shaking my hands as I leaned on it. Not out of fear, but out of freedom. It was the first time I had spoken my true feelings. No gentle landings, no self-blame, no sugarcoating. I returned to the kitchen on foot. The cream sauce with mushrooms was still boiling. I lowered the temperature, served my meal, topped it with some shredded cheese, and took a seat at the table. A modest supper prepared in a little kitchen, but the start of a life free from fictitious family debt. After the altercation with Eric, I believed that everything had finally subsided 2 days later. Stop beating on my door. No threatening phone calls. No texts filled with remorse. The snow became thicker on the roofs, and the whole town appeared wrapped in the frigid silence of February. Through the windows, a cold wind howled. My phone rang after I had just concluded a Zoom conference. One more unidentified number. I didn't identify the area code. I would normally leave it on voicemail, but for some reason, I decided to answer. "Hi there, this is Claire," a male voice, quiet and professional, responded. "Hello, Claire. It's Mark Dawson. I work as a lawyer for a client who has ties to your family. Have you got a moment to speak?" I made a lawyer straight. "What's happening? I apologize for taking you by surprise." "Calm and steady," he said. "I've been requested to examine financial transactions between you and a relative, especially your brother, Eric Spencer, but I can't talk about anything over the phone. I would like to meet with you in person to go over this in more detail if you are open to it." Like a fast-forward movie, a plethora of ideas raced through my head. Was I being sued by Eric? Was the family attempting to get their money back? Or worse, did they want to set me up for a legal issue of any sort? Despite my strong suspicions, I consented to the meeting. We arranged to meet the next morning at a tiny legal practice, which was around a half-hour's drive from my residence. I could hear my heels clicking along the corridor of the charming red brick building that housed Mark Dawson's office. He got up to meet me. He was tall, courteous, and obviously spent much of his day going over case files. Following some small talk, he slipped a hefty folder in my direction. "Danielle Spencer, Eric's wife, has given me permission," he stated. "She thinks you should know the facts after discovering some dubious financial activities." I was too shocked to disguise it. "Danielle?" Mark gave a nod. "At least not now. She doesn't want to make matters worse. She felt it was better to be honest with you, though, considering the amount of money at stake on your end." I turned the folder around. Copies of bank transactions showing withdrawals into a different account with the name Yes Investments after transfers from my account to Eric's were included. The account wasn't family. I always thought it had nothing to do with the children. A few weeks ago, Danielle found out about the additional account. Mark clarified that she became suspicious and began to follow it. She discovered that Eric had been using the funds to reserve hotel rooms, eat at fancy restaurants, and invest in online gambling sites. He was out seeing clients, he told his wife. I sat still. Even though the room was warm, a shiver went down my spine. "None of this was known to me," I muttered. "You didn't," according to Danielle. Mark's voice grew softer. "You wouldn't have continued to help if you had known," she remarked. I quickly read the statements. The dates corresponded with the occasions Eric contacted me in tears and said Mason needed money for school expenses. The vehicle had malfunctioned. Danielle was given less hours. He had lied through every single word, and I had believed them all. Danielle is thinking of splitting up. According to Mark, she wants to make sure that the funds you supplied won't disadvantage her or the children in the event of an asset division, if divorce is unavoidable. Slowly, I nodded. "Is there anything she wants me to do?" "Not right now," Mark said. "She simply wants you to know. Additionally, you are entitled to legal protection in the event that Eric attempts to coerce you once more. This is all valid evidence that may be utilized if the situation worsens." I was unsure of how long I stayed there, but I thanked Mark and shook his hand as I got up. It was terribly obvious. The family I had been referring to had long since decayed. I just hadn't noticed since I was too busy investing money in trust. As I left the workplace, the frozen walkway was streaked with lengthy winter sunshine. I was holding a folder that shouldn't have been there, like a bomb that hadn't detonated in years. I took it home and placed it on the dining table. I had lovingly kept birthday cards, medical bills, and even Ava and Mason's crayon paintings. But I had never felt so hollow and enraged as I did after reading these documents. My head insisted that I face the bank, so I sat down and started turning each page as if I were revealing a reality my heart wasn't prepared for. Transfers from my account of $600.00, $1, 25, and occasionally even $5.00 were seen on my statements. The times that Eric called and said, "The world is falling apart," in a shaky voice, all matched. Large cash withdrawals made into a separate account named Spencer E. Holdings, a name I had never heard of before, were also included in the same records a few days later. I kept turning over a receipt from an exclusive Denver resort that was dated right when Eric said Danielle, and the children were ill. "Could you give me some medication?" Additionally, a Rolex watch that was purchased using a card connected to that other account was charged. I was no longer startled by that point. The folder's very back, which had screenshots of correspondence exchanged between Eric and a person with the moniker G, made me numb. The information made my stomach turn, yet the receiver was left anonymous. "You can easily trick that chick, so don't worry. She will take out her money if you only mention the children. She considers herself to be an honorable big sister. She is only a sentimental credit card." That girl was me, and I froze. Words are absent. The instant you become aware that someone is making fun of you. For this, you have given up all. Eric hadn't taken advantage of me. He made fun of me for it. With my hands squeezing the folder so firmly that my knuckles became white, I closed it. I no longer felt disappointed or upset. It was intense rage for all the times I had kept quiet. I've always said I can help. It's okay. Never demand anything in exchange. Not even the most basic deference. I picked up my phone and sent Danielle a text. "I appreciate you telling me the truth, but you must understand that I will no longer remain silent." Within a minute, the message was flagged as read. Danielle phoned right away. She spoke in a strained tone. "I'm terribly sorry, Claire. I was unaware of how terrible it actually was." I had a suspicion, but I had no idea he would say it aloud. I interrupted her softly. "Danielle, it took courage to merely find out. However, it's no longer simply the two of you. This concerns me and my honor, and I'll make sure it doesn't get trodden on again." "I get it," she muttered. "If it means abandoning him, I'll do whatever it takes to keep the kids safe." I peered out the window. I was no longer chilly, even though the snow was still falling. A steely determination had taken hold. Eric could not ensnare himself in a web of falsehoods and bring others down with him, in my opinion. I considered everyone who had turned their backs and remained silent. When I required them, my mother's forced hugs when I took out my checkbook, my parents' uneasy dinners. Now everything was obvious. They didn't shun me because I wasn't good enough, but I refused to give up because I was no longer useful to them. This time, I wouldn't go through it alone, and I wouldn't allow my generosity to be made fun of. I launched my laptop and began creating a thorough record of all the money I had ever sent. Eric goes on dates, causes, supporting evidence. Although I was aware that I would not be able to get that money back, I could take back my voice and, if necessary, bring everything to light. The folder on the table caught my attention. The truth was inside. Unpleasant but essential facts that could not be hidden once they were revealed. After making some butter cookies, I was in the kitchen cleaning my hands. When my phone buzzed, it was one of the few things that calmed me down lately. An unidentified number. However, I was already aware of who it was. Eric. I nearly didn't respond. Actually, I had spent the whole week ignoring hundreds of his SMS and calls. However, I had a feeling that it was time to put a definitive end to this. I picked up after wiping my hands. "Claire is this person." Eric's voice sounded angry and dry. "I am aware that you are responsible. What did I raise an eyebrow behind? Don't act foolish. Our accounts were frozen by Danielle. She threatened to file for divorce, spent all of the cash, and hired a lawyer. It all began the minute you arrived." I spoke in a steady tone. "Oh, I failed to appear. Your wife extended an invitation to me." His tone was strong as he let out a sharp breath. "She is my children's mother. How would you persuade her to leave our family? I gave a chilly laugh. You persuaded her that I was the last to begin acting, Eric. Don't mistake enemies for consequences. You told a falsehood. For years, you took advantage of me. You told Danielle a falsehood. You did not take care of your children. You invested funds in areas you believed would go unnoticed. And you're pointing the finger at me now that it's blowing up? He sounded as though he was having trouble maintaining his composure. You're not understanding. I'm expected to provide for everyone. The decent spouse, the ideal father. You've never experienced such strain. I interrupted him. No longer tender. Don't mistake accountability with selfishness. I was able to assist you more than once. I prevented you from becoming bankrupt, losing your home, and leaving your children without. What did I receive? A message that referred to me as a talking wallet. At the front door, an insult. You're upset because I'm no longer covering for you. Quiet. Then he changed his tone. I was too accustomed with that self-satisfied laugh. The one he used to declare, failures don't belong here, as he walked by me last Christmas. Do you truly believe that you will get away with this? My parents are still with me. There are others in this household that have a voice, but you can make stuff up. I gripped the phone tighter. For the first time, my heart calmed. I had had enough of manipulation. I was no longer influenced by his statements. Being blind is not a family trait, and I'm more certain than ever that leaving was the correct decision if they're still supporting you after everything. Don't ever call me again, Eric, no matter what you say. A liar, I interrupted him. Firm voice. It's finished, Eric. I'm not here to fix you. Your emergency contact is not me when everything falls apart. Only to be abandoned when you're fed once again. It was me that you physically shoved out. He remained silent. I contributed slowly, so I don't owe you anything. If you continue to harass me, my lawyer will speak with you instead. Before he could reply, I hung up, my palms still trembling a little, not from fear, but from the pressure of finality. Breaking from your own blood is never an easy win, but often the longer you resist, the more you lose yourself. After a few minutes of standing still, I went back to the kitchen. The cookie batch remained unfinished. As though it were a silent ritual to end a chapter that had gone on for too long, I gently placed each cookie on the pan and changed the oven's temperature. My computer was arranging financial files when Danielle's message chimed on my phone. Have you got a moment to speak? I gave her a call back right away. I had never heard her voice before, yet it was forceful but gentle. I've decided, Danielle remarked to Claire. This weekend, the kids and I are heading off. Eric is spending 3 days in Cleveland attending a seminar. Without him getting in the way, I'll have time to pack and relocate. I stopped. Are you certain? This action. Everything I know will change as a result. She let out a breath, but nobody is protected by stillness. My children don't deserve to grow up in a household where there is constant stress, deception, and yelling. And I've stayed silent for far too long. She couldn't see me nodding, but I did. What am I supposed to do for you? Danielle paused. In Des Moines, I discovered a little flat. The first month's rent and the deposit are expensive, but the schools are decent and the area is quiet. It's quite a bit. You don't need to explain anything, as much as I hate to ask. I interrupted her. Give me the account details. Today, I will transfer the funds. Claire. I'm not really sure how to express my gratitude. Don't, I said softly. I'm assisting someone who genuinely deserves it this time. I'm not doing it as a duty either. I think you're doing the right thing, therefore I'm doing it. Danielle was silent for a while. With each trembling breath on the line, I could sense her weeping. Everything is packed by myself, she said. Clothes, documents, the kids' toys. Tomorrow evening, the truck will arrive. I've kept it a secret. Not even the parents of Eric. I want no one to try to stop me. You're not by yourself. I comforted her. I'm there whenever you need me. Although the call ended gently, I sensed a change in myself. Relief, not despair. Someone was finally deciding to break free from that pattern with me after so many years of being burdened by exploitation and deception. I got out of bed earlier than normal the following morning. With snow sticking to the window frames and a golden glow from the streetlights, the sky remained gloomy. With a few clicks, I brewed coffee, turned on my laptop, and accessed my bank account. The funds were transferred. Compared to what I'd given Eric, it wasn't much, but this time it meant something. Danielle texted me a picture that afternoon. With a worn-out toy in each hand, Ava and Mason sit atop a stack of moving boxes, beaming broadly. Her caption was straightforward yet optimistic. "Farewell, old home. Hi there, fresh life." The picture was saved in a folder called New Beginnings. I didn't feel hollow when I used those words for the first time. I was reading that night when my phone rang once again. "What's Eric's number?" I didn't respond. His voicemail was left. His voice is a thunder of rage. "She is no longer there. This is your fault, aren't you? Don't believe that you've won. I'll figure something out. My family was ruined by you." I didn't listen any longer and erased the message. There was no reason for me to hold his voice. No need to listen to any more justifications. It was Danielle who called the next morning. We arrived safely. The children adored the new location. I recently registered them at the nearby school. And I slept through the night for the first time in ages. I grinned. "It sounds like a new beginning. Without you, I couldn't have completed this," she muttered. I responded, "No, Danielle. You were able to save yourself." I simply pushed a little. After a few more minutes of conversation, the pledge was made. We would keep in contact regardless of how far away we lived. Not due to familial ties, but rather to genuine trust and respect between two women who had come to appreciate themselves. I sat peacefully in the living room, while the room warmed from the winter sunlight streaming in through the window. I imagined Eric, most likely standing by himself in that deserted house, encircled solely by the illusions he had constructed. Perhaps, I reasoned, Danielle's silent departure was the biggest wake-up call Eric would ever experience. Time went by more quickly than I had anticipated. Danielle started sending me texts on a regular basis a few months after she moved out. No more worried updates or mute apologies. It now featured images of Danielle in a little kitchen, wearing an apron and grinning in a way I had never seen while she lived with Eric, Ava in her new school uniform, and Mason proudly holding up his arithmetic prize. She got a job at an organic food shop in the area. A kind employer, set hours, nothing fancy but steady. She explained to me that each paycheck, regardless of size, was like getting back a part of herself that she had lost throughout the marriage. Danielle once texted me back then, and I simply lived my life in the hopes that Eric wouldn't blow up. I now know what I have to do when I get up in the morning, and it's mine. After reading what she said, my heart is at peace. I knew someone had found herself again after almost losing everything, not because I needed her appreciation. He was still Eric, after all. Although I didn't actively seek for news, rumors began to circulate. When he got back to the old house, he informed the neighbors that Danielle had been duped and that I had destroyed his family. I once received a call from my mother accusing me of allowing my brother to live alone without nobody to look after him. After discovering a basic fact, I listened to half of it and then erased the remaining portion. It's not weakness to be silent, it's liberty. I no longer waited for a call at midnight or winced when I opened my wallet. I stopped shivering on other people's porches around Christmas in an attempt to fit in. I had halted, and in doing so, I began to live. I started helping youngsters learn to read and chatting with strangers every Friday afternoon at the public library. I was reminded by that sensation that I wasn't made to bear burdens. I could be present, share, and remain complete. Every week, Danielle and I share tales about Ava being upset about veggies or Mason learning to read lengthier words in a video called No Drama, No Tears, Just Recipe Swaps. Danielle once said something that will always stick in my memory. "Claire, I've come to the realization that I can create a new family on my own, even if I used to believe I was merely a member of a broken one. And you participate in it." I grinned, my eyes watering from something warm rather than sorrow. I believed I had lost it forever. Eric, too. He continued to lose his job and pursue rash plans. He reportedly attempted to obtain a high-interest loan for a once-in-a-lifetime chance. My parents, on the other hand, avoided any family conversation whenever I inquired about their well-being. Although I didn't harbor any animosity against them, I refused to be forced back into mindless duty. I'm coming to terms with the fact that not everyone wants to change, and I'm not responsible for that anymore. I received a message about a new photo from Danielle on the afternoon of April, Honest, as I was watering plants on my porch. It was a sketch by Ava of a tiny home with a red roof, 2 children playing in the yard, and a woman with softly curled hair and a smile standing at the window. Ava had written at the bottom, "Now this is home. Aunt Claire is our sunshine, according to Mommy." I put my phone away and stood in the golden light, silent. I no longer felt burdened by accusations or hurting for words I would never hear from the individuals I had worked so hard to keep close. I have no idea what the future will bring. However, I am certain of one thing. I emerged from the darkness, and I feel really alive for the first time in years. Claire's tale serves as evidence that sometimes sacrifice and forgiveness aren't the most courageous things to do. Knowing when to quit is the key. She recovered herself after years of being used in the name of family by deciding to support the right person and avoiding poisonous relationships. Although that journey wasn't simple, it brought her a new existence in which she is loved, respected, and not simply a talking wallet. Sometimes all it takes to achieve freedom is one strong phrase. What are your thoughts on Claire's choice? If you were in her shoes, would you have acted similarly? For more touching, true-to-life tales of family resiliency and second chances, leave a comment below and remember to subscribe to the channel.